All right. Whenever you're ready, Jay.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Dennis. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the June 25th, 2020 meeting, virtual meeting of the Board of Architectural Review, Small, the City of Charleston. My name is Jay Claypool. I'm going to chair tonight's meeting. With me is a full complement of board members who are Glenn Gardner, Fillmore Wilson, Julia Martin, and Bill Huey. City staff present for this meeting is Dennis Dowd, the city architect, Alex Howell, and then our recorder, Maria Bassetti Hemleth. The order of the meeting will be as follows. Staff will give a brief introduction as to each project. The applicant and anyone speaking on behalf of the applicant collectively will have 10 minutes in which to present the application. If anyone speaking could please state your name clearly for the record. There will then be a public comment period. We're going to try to keep that to 10 minutes collectively as to each application. We'll then hear from city staff as to its recommendation and any comments. After both the public and staff have commented, then the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to any or all of that. And this is an opportunity to clarify things, maybe respond to any comments received. It's not an opportunity to reopen the presentation. The floor then closes. The board will then deliberate and ultimately vote. There's been a few items. The board has an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, public, anyone at any time. And just in general, we tend to begin questioning right on the heels of the application. There's been a few items that were on the originally published agenda that have been either removed or deferred. Those are as follows. Agenda item number 9, 61 Reed, House A. Agenda item number 10, 61 Reed, House B. Number 12, 131 Bogard. Number 14, 54 Anson. And number 17, 11.5 St. Philip. Those items have been deferred or withdrawn, so we're not going to hear those tonight. Please use your mute button as you need to with your cell phone, your dogs, etc. Try to keep the meeting as free from background noise as we can. And lastly, we, as always, are the Board of Architectural Review, and our purview is architecture, so please limit any public comment accordingly. I believe now Dennis will give a brief overview of the protocol for virtual meetings.
Yeah, a few housekeeping items. Thank you, Jay. This is just the instructions for the public to register and call in. And if anybody wants to do that, they can visit the city website and go to the innovate.charleston-sc.gov/comments to do that. The meeting protocol for tonight, staff will control the PowerPoint presentation for the applicant. That includes everything submitted by the applicant by the deadline in accordance with the submittal requirements. And applicants simply need to ask me to advance to the next slide during your presentation, and I'll do that. Applicant, staff, and board members are required to give their name whenever speaking, so please try to remember to do that when you speak so that it's on the record and so people know who's speaking. Video and microphone have been disabled for all attendees, and attendees, not participants or board members or staff, will only be given the capabilities to speak when they are called on during the public comment period. We will, however, elevate applicants making a presentation to be able to speak, obviously, when they give their presentation. And the chat and QA functions of Zoom have been disabled for everyone. As far as public comment period goes, the applicants and all team members and the public have been required to register, indicating the project they wish to comment on and submitting any documents in advance of the meeting. That needed to happen by noon today. And just as in an in-person meeting, all applications today that are heard today are part of a public meeting format with Robert's rules in order. If you have registered and will speak during the public comment portion of the meeting, you'll need to state your name and address for the record. Those members of the public that have registered will be called in order by project, and we ask those members that speak to remain in the meeting for the completion of the item that they've commented on in case the board has a question for them. Staff will call on the registered members of the public to speak for each project, and unregistered members of the public who raise their hand will not be called on. So you had to register beforehand. Board members should remember to open their participants panel so that each board member can see the status of other board members' microphones and cameras. Board members will be polled by the chair for comments and for their vote on a motion, not necessarily for comments, but for the vote. Each member, when voting, should respond yay and nay, or nay, not yay in favor, or nay, not in favor. And the chairman will reread the motion verbatim, and the board member making the motion should correct the chairman if he's not read the motion accurately. If a board member needs to recuse, he'll be temporarily removed from the meeting and placed on hold, and then we'll enter the meeting at the start of the next agenda item. And I don't anticipate we'll need to go into executive session, but if we do, there's a separate conference line to call into. We will issue results of this meeting, including staff comments and board motions to the applicant following the meeting, and the results will also be on the city website at the BAR portion of the website. And you can contact BAR staff through that website also. And finally, I'll mention that these proceedings are being recorded. So the first item is approval of the minutes from the February 13th, 2020 meeting.
Okay, those minutes were circulated by email earlier today. Does any board member have any comments or corrections to the February 13th minutes? No? Is there a motion to approve them?
I'll make a motion for approval.
All right, do a second.
Second.
Second, all right, motion by Julia, second by Bill. All in favor? Well, tell you what, I guess I got to call the roll, don't I? Glenn?
Aye in favor.
Fillmore?
Aye in favor.
Julia?
Aye in favor.
Bill?
Aye in favor.
Chair votes aye in favor. All right, so the next agenda item is approval of our minutes from our March 12th, 2020 meeting. Are there any comments or corrections?
Yes, I have a correction. Item number 766 Maple Street.
Okay,
The vote was 5-0. I was recused on that, so it would have had to have been 4-0. And also there is a note that I made a comment and I was not in the room. And so I think there's a confusion about who made the comment and the vote.
does anyone have the meeting?
Staff, well, I was going to say, Jay, that staff can go back and listen to the recording and correct that and bring these minutes back for approval.
Okay, so
I'll
Yeah.
move to defer these meeting minutes for review by staff.
okay, Glenn has moved for deferral pending correction of the minutes by staff. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Fillmore. Glenn,
Aye in favor.
Fillmore,
Aye in favor.
Julia,
Aye in favor.
Bill.
Aye in favor.
All right, chair votes aye in favor. All right, the next agenda item is 51 Noonan Street.
Okay, this is a request for approval for demolition of the existing standing seam metal roof, wood siding under vinyl siding and windows in preparation for renovation and addition to include the elevation of the structure. It's not rated in the west side, circa 1902 to 44, and the historic material demo purview area only. So here's the location on Noonan near Killian, east of President Street. It's the existing house is seen from Noonan, and a little different view looking southwest, and then west on Noonan, and east on Noonan, the house on your right here. The Sanborn maps that, let's see, what do we say? 02 to 44. And that's in fact what the Sanborn maps indicate to us. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant for their presentation. Alex, if you could promote them so that they can speak.
All right, I believe I've promoted Mr. Halal, and you can unmute yourself.
Jay, I'll keep the time, shall I?
Please, thanks.
Okay.
Let me see. Mr. Halal, you can unmute yourself. There you go. And if you have video, you can turn it on as well.
I didn't have any presentation. Sent the application, and I think the board member came today. Oh, okay, you're showing great. Thank you. The board member came today and looked at the house. We had an engineering report. We tried to salvage the house as much as we can, but as you see, it's in very bad shape. And I'm a structural engineer and general contractor myself. And I think the best way to do the house, considering that almost 90% of the materials or more in the house is not even older than 1990. We have a plan of taking all the bad materials out, which is most of the house, and then replace it with good material, keeping the architectural look for the Friedman Cottage, in matter of fact, in much better looking. We have to elevate the house some to have some crawl space and to prevent the same problems the house been having with moisture and termite, mostly termite as well, and be able to access under the house for running utilities and so on. This is our, we got approval from the zoning. We're not trying to change much in the house itself. And the zoning was okay with what we're doing. And we have a surveying plan and elevation certificate. And I had here a written in bullet items, the materials we're trying to replace. I'm hoping today from the show and tell we had that you were convinced that we are right about what we're trying to do, and I'd like to hear what the members have to say. If we can proceed, I would like to. We bought the house about 5 months ago, and then we've been trying to get going, and so it's we like to do. I like to be very flexible because we cannot hold it anymore. We need to get busy and get the house ready for my daughter to live in. So I will see what your opinion, and then I go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Does anyone have a question right now for Mr. Blau?
I do, Jay.
Okay.
Mr. Halal, is Century Engineering your company?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. And the other question I had was, have you spoken to building inspections about substantial improvement if you're elevating?
We have an architect look at that, and he got some drawings. I have another engineer, civil engineer, work with me, Mr. Mosri. He look at that. And I have also my neighbor, he's a general contractor. He looked at that. We had a building inspector at the beginning when we were in the loan process. And he looked at the house, and the loan was given to my daughter based on the renovation we're gonna do, because the inspector thought the house is not livable, and the way it is. And we couldn't see, at the time of the inspection, we could not see all the details in the house. We had 2 10-yard dumpsters and a few trucks of trash was in the house, believe it or not. It's just unbelievable. The yard was, the folks who live there just put their trash in the yard. I don't know why. And they have free pickup. And then the inside of the house from the attic all the way down was full of wet, molded materials. We couldn't see much to just cleaned it out. And then to our surprise, we find in what we find.
Are there any other questions for the applicant right now? Alex, I think we have some public comment. Can we go to that?
Yes. I will find, we have Anna Catherine Carroll, who I will allow to speak, and you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Anna Catherine Carroll with the Preservation Society of Charleston. We really appreciate the applicant walking us through the site this morning. It is unfortunate that so much historic material, including a majority of the wood siding, has been lost. And that being said, it is important that the remaining wood siding on the front facade be preserved in place as part of this rehabilitation project. We also ask that the applicant work closely with staff to determine the extent of any historic material that can be repaired versus material that may necessitate selective replacement in kind. Thank you.
Hold on.
So let me,
Mr. Halal, hang on a sec. Okay, so you can have a chance to respond, but let's hear from city staff as to its comments, and then you can respond to everything if you like.
Is that the only public comment, Alex? Okay.
Yes.
Well, per the engineer's report and the site visit, the wood siding remains behind the vinyl siding on only the north street-facing elevation, so that when the vinyl siding is removed from the north elevation, we'd like you to submit photos to preservation staff noting the extent of siding removal necessary to perform repairs, and staff will review in the field with the owner and contractor. All trim should remain unless beyond repair, and will also need to be reviewed in the field with staff. So that's really important for the applicant that, you know, once you take the vinyl siding off, give us a call. We'll come out and meet with you and decide on the extent of siding and trim that needs to be repaired versus what needs to be replaced. The windows are wood, but of 1990s vintage, and altered so that they are smaller than the original opening. So this is really out of BAR purview. The standing seam term metal roof is a character defining feature and is one of the last intact historic features of the house. Furthermore, the roof appears to be in repairable condition and should be retained. The west wall of the addition appears to be modern framing and could be opened up. So our recommendation is removal of the vinyl siding is out of BAR purview, so that can go ahead. Requirement for staff review of selective repair and replacement of wood siding on the north elevation once that vinyl is removed, and then denial of removal of the roof per staff comments.
Okay, thanks, Dennis.
You're welcome.
So Mr. Halal, you can respond to public comment, staff comments, anything or everything you'd like to.
Please mute.
I do appreciate your comment and thank you very much for taking the time to review my application. I want to make sure I understood. So what you're saying is the front wall, which is the only one have any siding that could be, I guess, old, and then the roof. Those are the two items that you asking me to try to preserve. Is that correct?
That is correct. And once you get the vinyl siding off, Mr. Hilal, give us a call and we'll come out and look at the structure with you. We'll look at the north wall and we'll look at the other walls just to confirm, you know, what we think is underneath the siding. And then we'll agree on the extent of demolition at that point of materials, and then you'll be good to go.
One question from structural point of view, and then from also construction point of view. If you, I don't know if your note showed that the front wall, you can actually push it with your hand and it almost can fall into the street. There is hardly any structure supporting or holding the siding. Is there the method of repair, if it require me to remove the siding, put it back on after I build the wall? Is that an acceptable method, or how you usually experience with repairing that? Because there is no structure to hold that siding.
Is that a question for the board or the staff?
Yeah, if there is, I mean, because it's going to be difficult in order to keep the siding, which is I would love to. I don't have no intention taking it out, but there is no structure behind it to hold it. I mean, whatever there is really totally inadequate.
If I may, this is Julia Martin, Mr. Halal, and you could rebuild that wall and sheathe it from the interior. That's the method that a lot of people use in cases like that.
I will try to do that. We may have to make a little bit, we'll have to be creative how we do the structure. I guess when I get there, I'll come up with some kind of construction sequence and some design.
Yeah, I want to be clear that you're careful not to remove anything after you take the siding off until we come out and.
Yeah, right. I understood that. So I understood that,
Okay.
Dennis. I will make sure of that. I'm
Okay.
just asking a question. Okay, thank you. I will, now the next step, I need to go get a permit for demolishing what I can demolish and then taking the siding off, and maybe we can go from there, right?
Well, hang on. So next step, let's make sure as a board, let's talk about anything else we want to add to the discussion.
sorry.
And then we'll give sort of the official answer here.
I
All right, so-
apologize.
No, it's fine. All right, so board discussion on item number on 51 Noonan.
This is Bill Huey. I agree with staff's comments and staff's recommendation. I guess I would add that, again, the importance to the applicant that as soon as the vinyl siding does come off, to have staff scheduled to come out and take a look. I believe there are probably multiple ways to handle the structural and construction issues that you should be able to resolve with staff. So I'm in support of staff's recommendation and comments.
I agree.
Here, I agree with staff.
I just had one, this is Julia, I just had one kind of hesitation about denying the removal of the roof, because standing there, I could probably be convinced that it's at the end of its lifespan. And Dennis, just in case that were the case, and if someone reputable, familiar with that material could, verify that, I thought it might be worth having a board condition that if it absolutely has to be replaced, it could be replaced with X. What do you think about that?
Well, the only thing you have purview over is whether it can be removed or not. Once it's removed, you have no say over what it's replaced with.
Okay.
So I think typically what happens, Julie, in these situations is, we go out there and look at it, and if we feel like it's beyond the point where it could be repaired, then, we'll recommend that it can be replaced. If we think it can be repaired, then that's what we'll recommend and not approve demolition of it. But
Okay.
that's as far as we can go,
Sounds good.
with BAR purview in this area.
So I'll just make a motion for denial of removal of the roof and requirement for staff review of selective repair replacement of wood siding on north elevation once vinyl siding is removed.
Do we know that for certain that there's no siding under any other elevations? Were you able to determine that today?
There might be a little bit on the west side, so we could take out on north elevation from that motion.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. When they take the vinyl off, we can look at it all.
If that motion is amended, Julia, I'll second your motion.
Thanks.
Okay. So Julie's made a motion for a requirement of staff review of selected repair replacement of wood siding on the structure once vinyl siding is removed, and denial of removal of roof per staff comments. Glenn, did you second that motion?
I did, yes.
Okay, I'll put it up for a vote. Glenn,
Aye in favor?
Julia,
Aye in favor?
Fillmore,
Aye in favor.
Bill,
Aye in favor.
the chair votes aye in favor, so the motion carries 5-0. Okay. So then the next agenda item is 210 Gordon Street.
Okay, this is a request for approval for partial demolition of a rear garage, partial demolition of a rear addition, and demolition of existing windows. It's a Category 4 building in Wagner Terrace, 1919 to 1944. And again, the historic material demo purview area only. So here we are, Gordon and Wagner. And some existing site photos directly in from Gordon. And then west on Gordon, east on Gordon. The survey card that tells us actually dates it to 1945. We think it's earlier than that based on Sanborns, and these Sanborns. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant. And Alex, if you would elevate them to panelists so they can give their presentation.
All right, I've promoted Mr. Hofstrom and he can unmute himself.
Okay, great. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So my wife and I are here. We appreciate you guys coming out this morning. I guess what we put together, I wasn't aware that we were going to have to run through it as a presentation, but I can certainly do that and answer any questions that you have, in addition to the ones that you had this morning. I think maybe I misunderstood. I think I was told to put them into two different presentations, one for the shed and one for the addition. So I guess this is the shed. I think the first thing to point out here is that you can see that there's two parcels. The shed that we're looking to modify is in the corner of the front parcel. The reason that we're doing the addition the way we're doing it is to keep everything on that front parcel, which is why we're kind of kicking it out to the side there, and asking to remove a portion of that shed, which I think it's also important to note, can't be seen from the street, is not in its original, form, I guess. It's certainly not the original roof. The inside's obviously been modified, but I don't think there's anything else to mention for this slide. And you can see sort of where the addition, sort of lies, and why we want to create a path from the house to the back here. This is what the modification would look like. I think you can move to the next one there. And these are the actual, as you saw this morning, the actual pictures of this shed. Somebody, I guess maybe it used to be a garage. Somebody put that door in at some point later, but. Well organized, as you can see. Yep, so that's the shed, and then this is the addition. And this is from the structural engineer. The sort of crisscrossed walls are the walls to be removed of the back addition that was built in 2005 or 6, and that's what will be built in its place. And that's removing the roof from the addition and adding, this is the layout of what we're looking to add here. The top would be existing, and then the bottom is proposed. This is what it would look like from the back, and then from the front. We tried really hard to kind of keep it as in line with the the design of the original house as we could. When you're looking at it from the front, these are the four, and that's the east side, I guess. The south side, or the north side, and the west side.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions right now?
I have one. This is Julia.
Hey, Julia.
Eric, can you just quickly clarify the reasoning for not going beyond the property line? I mean, the lot is yours, right?
It is our lot. Because it keeps us from having options in the future. You know, we could sell that lot to either one of our neighbors. Who knows what they do with the marsh back there? There's talk of them filling in portions of it to make room for a road to go and access a pump station. It could end up being a buildable lot in the future. If we break that line, it negates any opportunity to do any of those things.
Any other questions? So, Alex, I think we have one public comment on this item. Could you initiate that, please?
Yes, I will allow Anna Catherine Carroll to speak, and you can unmute yourself.
Anna Catherine Carroll with the Preservation Society of Charleston. The Preservation Society appreciated the opportunity to attend this morning's site visit, and while we are not opposed to the demolition of the non-historic rear addition, we are opposed to the demolition of the garage structure that appears to be original to the period of construction of the primary house. In addition to being an original site feature, we observe the garage to be in sound structural condition and cannot support its partial removal. Additionally, we are opposed to the demolition of existing historic windows, which we also observe to be in good condition and we feel are a character defining feature of the house. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's go to staff comments.
Okay, well, our comments are pretty much right in line with Preservation Society. The garage and shed date from the construction of the residence pre-1944 and is in good condition. Partial demolition of the garage to allow for a new rear addition to the residence we feel is inappropriate. The existing rear addition was permitted and constructed 2006, so partial demolition to this non-historic rear addition is in fact out of BAR purview, because it's not 50 years old. And the existing 3/1 wood windows are original to the residence. They're a character defining feature and are in repairable condition. Therefore, they should be retained and repaired per the Secretary of Interior standards. Our recommendation is for partial demolition of the rear addition is out of BAR purview. As I mentioned, we're recommending denial of partial demolition of the garage per the staff comments and denial of the wholesale demolition of windows per staff comments, and the requirement of staff to conduct a field review of selective repair and placement of any windows that are beyond repair if the owner feels that is necessary. But we need to approve that before they were replaced. That's it.
Thanks, Dennis.
You're welcome.
Eric, you're welcome to respond to public and/or staff comments.
Well, I would say that I appreciate the work that you guys do. I know it must be difficult to walk the line of preserving the historic integrity of the city while also allowing people to use their property freely. This project, what we spent a lot of money on, cannot go forward without the demolition of that shed. We had a plan in place earlier to demo the whole shed. We were told that we needed BAR approval to do that, so we constructed this other plan. I didn't realize we were going to need your approval to partially modify the shed. The shed cannot be seen from the street. And like I said, I know you guys walk a fine line. I feel like you've kind of crossed it here for a small shed that no one is ever going to see. No one is ever going to ride down this street on a, historic tour and ever see this, ever. We're perfectly willing to do whatever we can and feel like we have in the design of the house. Perfectly happy to, some of the windows I think I didn't show you do need repaired. We can do that. But we can't move forward with this project without the approval for the modification of the garage. And it just seems unreasonable to not allow that just because it's a certain age. It can't be seen, will never be seen.
One thing I would point out, Eric, is the ordinance says that landscaping doesn't factor in when determining visibility. So without landscaping, it definitely would be visible down the driveway.
Right. In the, in the spirit of reasonableness, however, it seems unreasonable to come to this conclusion for this request.
Okay, thank you. So let's now go to board deliberation on 210 Gordon.
Okay, I will just say for Mr. Hofstrom's benefit that the opinions we're coming up with now are very much in line with all we've ever done. And I do think that little garage is very much of a piece and integral to the original house that you have. And I think it has a value, even if it's kind of underappreciated by some. Similarly, the windows, your 3/1 windows are wonderful. I wish everyone in the neighborhood had windows like yours. And I'm sure that staff would be reasonable about allowing you to repair what needs to be repaired. But I would be sad if they were lost. Yeah, so I'm sorry that you've gone down a long road of design and contemplation without really understanding how this works, but this is not a departure from our normal, sort of protocols.
Very quickly, may I ask that the screen with the Sanborns be displayed?
It's hard, you gotta zoom in there.
Yeah. I can't zoom in, Bill, unfortunately.
Dennis, can you take your cursor and circle or go to the lot? Are you able to do that?
I can't because I can't zoom, so I can't exactly pinpoint the location.
Okay.
Here, let me show you. If you want. Here we go. Bill, I don't know if this is gonna work, but I'll try to show you. 210, and this is the 1944 map. Can you see that?
Yep.
The house and the garage.
Julie, I can't see your cursor.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you got to make me big or something.
Now I see it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the second one in from the corner from Wagner.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Did somebody just circle it in purple?
I think I just annotated it. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Got it. This is Jay. I remember hearing over the years I've been doing this. It started, I remember hearing it way back when with Robert Gurley actually talking about how these garages are very typical in the neighborhood. And you can see on the Sanborns, they're in a number of places. They do provide a character defining element.
Again, quick question. This is 1944 Sanborn.
Yes.
They do provide, some character defining elements in the neighborhood. I distinctly remember some applications on Rutledge and Ashley where we've looked at these and required that they remain. So is perhaps backwards logic as it may sound, we've been fairly consistent on this point of in this case, supporting staff's recommendation. So I'd be inclined to go along with it because we've done it plenty of other times. And to Julia's point, it's a well-kept garage, and it has, you know, merit.
Yeah, Fillmore here. I agree with Jay and with staff on this, and in keeping consistent in our decisions on this. We have repeatedly voted to save these structures, and it is consistent with interior standards, which we are mandated to uphold.
Is there any other comment from the board or any other thoughts?
I mean, I think the fact that the building appears to be the exact same vintage as the house is what one of the factors to me, you know, in remaining consistent with how we have ruled in the past. I think that's important to note. And I personally don't think altering the building to the degree that's proposed is the right answer. I understand their position with regard to the lot lines and all of that, but there's too much on the table there for us to take into consideration as a board.
Okay, if there's no other board discussion or comment, does anyone want to have a motion they would like to make?
Well, I'll just add one little thing that Bill, do you have an audio issue or no?
It's on mute, I think.
I think Bill may have an audio issue.
He's on mute.
You're muting yourself, I think.
Right. Bill, you're off mute. Do you want to try to talk? Sorry. I know he's frustrated. I'll say what I was going to say really quickly before we, I think Bill may be able to hear us, but he can't talk. I agree with Julia with regard to the 3/1 windows. I think those are relatively sacred. I would not be opposed to them doing something different on that addition, the little bay pop out in the front where clearly they have a broken window currently. I'm completely open-minded to staff resolving that issue with them.
Okay, should we just like abstain, Bill? Can we abstain a person?
Yes, yes, you can.
Sorry, Bill. I will make a motion.
Well, wait, we can hear you, Bill.
You're back.
You're Bill. Yep.
Can't hear us?
Bill, say something.
Totally lost.
Okay. Do you want me to go ahead?
Please, Julia, you're getting ready to make a motion.
That was a motion for denial of partial demolition of garage and denial of wholesale demolition of windows and requirement of staff field review of selected repair replacement of windows if necessary. And we could note a board caveat that the front bay is open for
Wow, I can't hear.
change.
Ask if anyone can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hear you.
I cannot hear anyone. I haven't heard any of the discussion.
You'll have to
And I am
abstain.
on, audio on.
Okay, Julie, would you clarify your, when you talk about the front bay, that it would be up for demolition? And it's not, there's no bar on demolition of the front bay.
I think that's correct because it's not contemporary with the other windows. It's newer, and especially the center window, which Mr. Hofstrom indicated is broken, is not historic at all.
Okay. So Julie, if I heard you, you made a motion for denial of partial demolition of the garage per staff comments, denial of wholesale demolition of windows per staff comments, requirement of staff field review of selective repair replacement of windows if necessary, other than the front bay window, which is acceptable for demolition.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Wilson, I'll second.
Second by Fillmore. Okay, so Bill's going to recuse for audio issues. All right, so I'll call the roll. Julia,
Yay in favor?
Fillmore,
Aye, in favor.
Glenn,
In favor.
chair votes yay in favor. So it passes 4-0 with Bill recusing.
Abstaining.
Excuse me, abstaining. Okay. The next agenda item is 180 St. Margaret.
Before we continue, do we want to see if Bill can get his audio and working properly? And Alex, can you erase the little circle you did?
I just sent Bill a dial-in voice number that he may be able to try and maybe put himself on speakerphone, because Bill, if you can hear me at all, we can hear and see you. I've texted you a dial-in number.
He can't hear you, Glenn.
You can't.
Put your phone up on the screen so we.
Yeah, I see it. I'm going to need to log back in, I guess. I've totally lost audio. I have video, everything, but I have no audio. I'm going to have to abstain from this vote.
You already did. Are you going to dial back in, Bill? Yeah.
Alex, has Bill disappeared? We can assume he's dialing back in?
Yeah.
Yes, it looks like it.
Okay.
And I did, like I said, I sent him a link that I tried to let him know by text that we can see and hear him, and he could potentially put his cell phone on speakerphone. Maybe that'll work.
Can you hear us now, Bill?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Hey, welcome.
All right. So
All right.
next agenda item is 180 St. Margaret Street.
And this is a request for approval for demolition of existing windows on a Category 4 structure in Wagner Terrace, circa 1919 to 1944. And once again, the historic material demo purview only. All right, what's going on? We're just beset with troubles here today. Can't advance the PowerPoint. Oh, there we go. Okay. So at the corner of 8th Avenue and St. Margaret Street, this house right here. A view from St. Margaret, better days, and a view of from 8th Avenue, looking southeast. and then looking west on St. Margaret, and east on St. Margaret. And survey card indicates circa 1950. Sanborn maps that confirm that. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant, Alex, if you could promote them.
Okay. Let's see. I promoted Mr. Milanos, and you can unmute yourself.
Okay, did that work?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am Peter Milanos with Arcadia Construction, and I'm presenting today about the window replacement for 180 St. Margaret Street. My client on this project is a doctor who lives in the neighborhood now and will be moving into this home when completed. We're both very excited to restore such a beautiful home to its potential and what it deserves. We request the right to replace the existing windows with a double hung window from PGT, which appears almost identical to the existing windows. The windows we plan to use are simulated divided light, just like a Marvin or Anderson window, meaning it has divides on the inside and outside of the window with a spacer bar between the glass. The current windows have been leaking and have caused significant damage to the home and will continue to do so. I don't feel that repairing these windows is a feasible or reasonable option, given that there is so much damage. And I'm afraid it would lead to a window with poor performance and perhaps bring the homeowner right back here with more leaking issues, asking to replace windows in the future, which is something I definitely don't want. For these reasons, I believe that replacement is the best solution and will provide a more energy efficient window while retaining the historic window look that we all want. If permission is given, I believe this will be a great example of what can be done with such a beautiful and historic home. But beyond that, I have no more comments. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Peter. Any questions from the board? Okay, Alex, can we get a public comment?
We have two speakers. I'll start with Anna Catherine Carroll, and you can unmute yourself.
Before you do, Anna Catherine, I did have one question, Jay. I was muted. For the applicant, are you proposing to replace the metal windows with the 2/2 also?
The metal windows would be replaced. I'm not proposing a 2/2 anywhere. We're going to keep the same divided light. I think it's 9/9 that we have now.
Oh, okay. So you would replace the metal with 9/9?
Well, it would. I don't know exactly that some of the metal windows can be replaced with a single window, and we can actually match the divides exactly as they are. There's, I believe, one that is really wide and would require two windows to fit that opening nowadays. But we would stick with, I would like to try and match the pane sizes, the window pane sizes to how they are now.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so Anna Catherine, I think, was getting ready to make a public comment.
Yeah.
Anna Catherine Carroll with the Preservation Society of Charleston. We appreciate the opportunity to visit the site this morning. And based on our review of the application materials and observation, it appears that the majority of the windows proposed for demolition are in repairable condition. We ask that the board deny wholesale demolition of windows and require the applicant to refine the scope of this request to reflect selective replacement of sashes that cannot be feasibly repaired. Thank you.
And our next speaker is April Wood, and I've allowed you to speak, and you can unmute yourself.
April Wood, Historic Charleston Foundation. Historic Charleston Foundation has reviewed this application for the demolition of existing windows at 180 St. Margaret Street. The windows appear to be historic. The Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation recommend repair rather than replacement when possible. It appears that the majority of the wood windows can be repaired. Some of the steel windows are in better condition than others. The steel windows that can be repaired should be repaired rather than replaced. HCF is opposed to this application, especially with regard to the replacement of the wood windows. Thank you.
All right, Alex, is that it for, I guess, verbal public comment?
Correct. And I think we have one letter.
We did. We received a letter. I'll read it. It's from Kevin Everly of 367 President Street, who writes that he'd like to be on record as strongly opposing the replacement of the historic windows at 180 St. Margaret Street. The house was built in 1939 for Milton Benoff. I've reviewed the online materials and did not see anything that would justify a wholesale replacement. The photos show failing glazing compound. The glazing compound is meant to be replaced periodically and has nothing whatsoever to do with replacing the actual window structure. One wouldn't replace an air conditioner every time the filter wore out. On the steel windows, there does not seem to be anything wrong with them that some scraping and Rust-Oleum primer wouldn't fix. Likewise, on the wooden windows, the problems seem to be failing paint and glazing compound as well. I could identify only a single window of any serious wood rot, the one showing a failed corner of one sash. Even that one should be repaired instead of replaced. I'm strongly opposed. All right, so let's go to staff comments and recommendations.
Okay, per the site visit, and I also visited the site myself last Friday, and photos provided, some of the windows are damaged and may require some sash replacement, but that would be on a very selective basis, and we would have to review the replacement of any of these windows in the field with the owner or the contractor. However, many other windows are in completely repairable condition. I've seen, in my 10 years, I've seen a lot of windows, historic windows, that you would think could not be repaired and are repaired and function perfectly well. They keep the water out, they're operable, and don't require wholesale replacement. The addition also is historic, and those metal casement windows could be repaired as well, should be retained and repaired. And these repairs should be done in accordance with the preservation briefs from the National Park Service. So we're recommending denial of wholesale replacement of the windows and the requirement of staff to review in the field the selective repair and replacement of any windows.
Okay. Peter, you're welcome to clarify or respond to anything staff and public comments.
Obviously I don't necessarily agree, but that's beyond the point. The casement windows, I mean the metal windows, to be clear, many of them are extremely rusted all the way through the metal in places. And I don't know that they will. I don't see how they could be repaired and still be a reasonable operable window that, you know, keeps out air and bugs and water. But I'll wait to see what the decision is.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're in board deliberation.
Fillmore Wilson here. I'll start off. I'm inclined to agree with staff on this, particularly the wood windows, I think are generally repairable and not in terrible condition with some select sash replacement as staff indicated. The metal casement windows, I think, are particularly character defining. Some of them are in pretty bad shape and probably would be slightly difficult to repair. I think they're probably all repairable to one extent or another. And if there is a window that is not repairable, it could be largely replaced in kind, I think. And so I am in line with staff's recommendations.
Can I just add something, Jay, to my comments?
Sure.
You know, this is an area for demolition purview only. So if the applicant decided they wanted to do storm windows, they could certainly do that.
Okay, so we're back to deliberating. Anybody want to tap onto Bill Moore's comments?
Yes, this is Bill Huey. I do agree with staff's comments about the assessment of the condition of the windows. I do believe that there probably are some windows that will definitely require more intense either repair or potentially partial replacement of sash or other pieces. And do believe that staff's recommendation of a site visit to assess those issues is warranted. So in that case, I do agree with staff's recommendation.
Okay, so my head nodding. Anything else? No. Anybody want to make a motion? Phil Moore or Bill, you want to make a motion?
Bill Huey, I'll make a motion for denial of wholesale demolition of windows per staff comments and a requirement that staff review in the field selective repair and replacement of windows.
Okay, that was clear enough. Is there a second to Bill's motion?
Second that.
Second by Julia. All right, I'll call the roll. Bill?
Aye in favor.
Julia?
Aye in favor.
Phil Moore?
Aye in favor.
Glenn?
In favor?
Chair votes aye in favor, so the motion passes unanimously. Next agenda item is 24 Peachtree Street.
This is a request for approval of demolition of 16 existing windows. It's window night. It's category 4 in North Central, circa 1935. And once again, the historic material demolition purview area only. And apologize for the state of this view, but this is the house here on Peachtree. Looking at it from Peachtree Street. And the east view of Peachtree, the house here on the left. And then the west view. And the survey card that indicates circa 1935. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant. Alex, please elevate them to the panelists.
All right, I've promoted Mr. Brock to panelist, and you can unmute yourself and turn on your camera if you have one.
All right, Alex, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I appreciate you and Dennis and the board members taking time to do a site visit. Obviously, we are requesting to replace the original windows. It is in our opinion that they are beyond repair, and we have been doing new construction in the rear. Ultimately, we would like to match the original windows with the insulated Marvin windows and double-breasted mold with copper flashing, so it's aesthetically matching throughout the entirety of the house. So I'm going to turn it over to my builder, who's also my father, to speak about the condition of these existing windows. Alex, are you able to promote him at this time? He's with me now, but I signed him up to speak.
Let me find him. Hold on just a second.
Well, if he's with him, he could just speak.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like that window right there, that particular sash right there, the mid rail is pretty rotted, and I think I'd have to replace that. But we'd like to go back with the Marvin window and impact glass and match the glass, match the units exactly like they are. However, if we can't do that, we'd like to go back with a wood sash, exactly putty glazed, exactly like that, with a material that won't deteriorate, because there's a lot of rotted wood on all of this, and it's going to be just an ongoing process. We have a mill workshop, and we can make the sash out of mahogany and putty glaze it just like they are. We do that a lot. And there's a few windows there that they look like they've changed the casing on them. At some point, somebody's changed the casing on them, and it's not the original casing. They're all caulked shut, completely caulked shut, and or the top sash is completely caulked shut, and I just, you know, it's going to take a lot of work to get them operable. Hearing all the other cases, I know this is not probably going to happen, but we would like to go as, you know, light if we possibly could. And there's a metal window up in the top attic. At some point, somebody, I think they were kids living up in the attic, and that's up in the gable end on the driveway side, and that one right there. And I don't believe that was original, because the casing on the exterior is not the same, and it has no casing at the top and no drip cap. And I would, and I don't know what that was. I don't know what that ever was. So, and I don't know what that was either. I think that was a vent at one time, but it looks like they've turned that. There were people living in the attic, and I don't know how, because there was no air conditioner or anything up there. So, we would, you know, there was also some copper flashing. And one question I have is, can we put copper flashing over the top of the windows? As long as they're not touching the windows, it's, you know, just to keep the water from going behind the window and in the house. It has a wood drip cap, but it's not doing the job. So, and there's a good bit of seal damage and rot, mainly at the bottom where it's wicking up the moisture from the sill. And that piece of glass right there, that piece of obscured glass, does that need to remain? I don't know if that was original or not. I really don't know. And do you have any, does it matter if the windows, if we do have to keep the windows, does it matter if they work? Can we just leave them like they are? Is that a code issue? Or can we just leave them caulk shut and just leave them as they are? Some of them are about to fall out on the bottom sash, but all of the tops are caulk shut. That's about all I have to say, really.
All right. Thank you both, Mr. Brock. We'll go to, well, first of all, does anybody have any questions? And we can probably take up some of your questions in our deliberation, but does any board member have a question at this point? No? Okay, so we'll go to public comment.
I have one question, Jay, if I could.
Yep, fire away those.
Are these double hung or single hung?
They're double hung. They're double hung. They have, well, they are double hung.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Alex, you want to go to public comment?
All right, we'll start with Anna Catherine Carroll.
Anna Catherine Carroll with the Preservation Society of Charleston. Upon observing the condition of the windows in the application and on site this morning, the Preservation Society feels that the majority, if not all, of the windows proposed for demolition are in repairable condition. We ask that the board deny this request, and if this application is to return to the board, we ask for a refined scope of work that reflects selective replacement of sashes that cannot be feasibly repaired. Thank you.
And our next speaker is April Wood.
April Wood, Historic Charleston Foundation. HCF has reviewed this application for the demolition of 16 existing windows at 24 Peachtree Street. The windows are historic. The Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation recommend repair rather than replacement when possible. It appears that the majority of the wood windows can be repaired, and we recommend this course of action. HCF recommends denial of this request. Thank you.
Okay, Alex, we received one letter. Is that it for verbal comments?
That's all public comment or verbal, yeah.
We received one letter, written comments from Kevin Eberly of 367 President Street, who writes that he would like to be recorded as strongly opposed to the replacement of the historic windows at 24 Peachtree Street. The house was built in 1939 for Thomas Thornley. He's reviewed the online materials and can't identify any damage to the windows. The applicant is trying to display for the board. If the applicant doesn't document the damage which justifies destroying historic fabric, the BAR should clearly deny the request. He is opposed. That's Kevin Everly. How about staff recommendations, staff comments and recommendations?
Okay, well, I have no doubt it'll take a lot of work to repair. I've done it myself and I've seen it done on many structures before. But you know, the Secretary of Interior standards does dictate that repair is always preferred over replacement. And windows such as these can be repaired. It's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of work to replace them and a lot of cost. The existing 3/1 wood windows are original to the residence. They're a character defining feature, and in my opinion, in a repairable condition. Therefore, they should be retained per the Secretary of Interior standards. A few sash may need to be replaced, and like some of the other projects before this, we'll need to do a field review in the field with the owner and the contractor to decide on that. But any other repairs and changes that involve any demolition will need to be submitted for approval. So we're recommending denial of wholesale demolition of the windows per staff comments and the requirement of staff review in the field of selective repair and replacement of windows.
Okay. Thanks, Dennis.
You're welcome.
Mr. Brock, y'all are welcome to clarify, respond to public or staff comments.
Well, does it matter to y'all whether the windows operate or not? The top sash, I mean, you just want them to look like what they originally look like, but does it matter if they operate?
No, we're only concerned with demolition.
And Dennis, I'm glad to hear that you've worked on these many times, because I'm gonna be calling you to possibly help out on the weekends. If you don't. I hope you do some good.
I'll be glad to show you how.
There you go. I got you. Okay.
And generally, I'll say the top sash normally in an older window should not work.
Right. I don't see any reason for it to work. And I really, if I'm going to repair them, I really just want to get the fix the top sash, and whether it has weights or not, because it never really needs to work. And then make sure that the bottom sash, we can certainly make that operate. And then there, but some of the rails, the mid rail on the top sash is drooping and it's bad. And I almost have to take it out, and I don't know if I can. My shop guy, he'll spend more time probably just fixing that than he could make the whole top sash. So you know, I have to go by what y'all say on that as far as which particular sash needs to be replaced. And there's certainly, it's not all the top sash, but there's several there that are bad. And the metal window is a concern. I don't know if it doesn't have, it's the top casing is missing. The side casing doesn't match the existing casings. It's narrower and it doesn't have any drip cap. So I would like to do y'all have any say on, can I put copper drip cap over the top of these to keep the water out?
No, we don't.
Just demo only. Okay.
Yeah.
So Mr. Brock, I don't know if we're going to be able to get into like a window by window analysis. I'm sure that'll work into.
We'll do that in the field.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Okay.
But I forgot to say in my recommendation that, you know, unlike the previous application, a metal window would not have been an original feature of this house.
Yeah.
We can look at that in the field, but I imagine you'll be able to replace that.
Yeah, I want to keep the exact same size and everything, and
yeah,
but just make it look like the ones below.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So let's get a board discussion then. Anybody want to start?
I feel like staff has kind of said everything that needs to be said, unless someone disagrees.
I was going to agree with staff myself.
I agree.
So I'll just make a motion for denial of wholesale demolition of windows and requirement of staff field review of selected repair or replacement of windows.
I think that encompasses it. I mean, I know Dennis made a comment about the metal window could probably get. I think that falls under what you just said, Julia.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Is there a
Thank
second
you.
to Julia's motion?
Second.
Second by, who's that, Glenn?
Yeah.
I'll call the roll. Julia?
Aye in favor.
Glenn?
Aye in favor.
Fillmore?
Aye in favor.
Bill?
Aye in favor.
Chair votes aye in favor. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Next one would be 370 UG.
Okay, and this is a request for approval for demolition of an existing rear garage structure at fire station number 8. The fire station's a category 1 building in North Central circa 1915 to 44, and the landmarks overlay district also. So here it is on Hugie Street, Shan Street right here. This is the school, Moultrie School. Existing site photos looking at the front of the building from Hugie, and then looking down Shan Street, and then looking west on Hugie, and then east on Hugie. Some historic images here of the building. It's very much in the same condition, I think. The Sanborn maps that confirm the date, and I will turn it over to the applicant, Alex, if you could elevate them to participant.
All right, I've elevated them to participant, and they can unmute themselves and turn on the camera if they have it.
Yes. All right, I think we're live. Yep. Good afternoon. My name is Alyssa Bostain, and here physically I have Jay White, also with Leolio, and Matt Compton, the city's project manager, is virtually on the line as well. Thank you so much for your time this morning at the site. I see that most of all of the board members here tonight were at the site this morning. We discussed the nature of this application on site today with all of the board members, and our rationale for the demolition of this building is that it's a non-contributory to the designation of the historic landmark overlay district for this property. If you want to flip through to the next slide.
I will.
Cover slide. We can just flip through these quickly since y'all were out on site this morning. 500 square foot shed on site adjacent to the fire station 8 in the back rear corner. Photos of the perimeter, photos of the interior, and the site survey locating it. And just to zoom in. So that's really it, short and simple. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay. Is there any public comment?
You're muted, Alex.
We do not have any public comment for this one.
No public comment. Okay, staff recommendation.
The Sanborn maps show a metal-clad accessory structure dating back to at least 1944, and it could date to between 28 and 44. However, alterations to the original garage include vinyl siding on top of metal cladding, new garage door, vinyl wrapped soffit and fascia. It's unclear if the current form of the building is the same as it was originally, but it's questionable. So we're recommending approval of demolition. There's just not much left here.
Okay. Do y'all want to respond to public comment, or I guess staff comments? Excuse me.
No, thank you.
Okay. Board discussion.
This is Bill Huey. I would say I agree with staff's comments, and looking at the structure, I would suspect that much of what we saw was more recent than the Sanborns would even have indicated. I don't know how much this thing has been gone over, but it appears to be no real significant material involved. So I agree with staff's comments and recommendation.
Move for approval as submitted.
Glenn's made a motion for approval of demolition as submitted. Is there a second? Second.
I'll second.
Bill. All right, so I'll call the roll. Glenn?
I in favor.
Bill?
I in favor.
Fillmore?
Aye in favor.
Julia?
I in favor.
Chair votes aye in favor, so the motion carries unanimously. So the next agenda item is 370 UG.
Okay, and this is requesting conceptual approval for exterior renovation to include modifications to doors, windows, and roof form of Fire Station number 8. Again, a Category 1 in North Central, circa 1915, in the Landmarks Overlay District. Again, the survey cards for this and the photos are the same. So again, we'll turn it over to the applicant for their presentation.
This is Alyssa Bostaine again with Leolio Architecture. Still have Matt Compton with the city on the line and Jay White here in the room. We're going to skip through the presentation in respect for your time tonight. There's a lot of information in here that's pertinent to the history of the project and the site. And if there's anything you'd like to discuss further, certainly let us know. We would like to request conceptual approval for the renovation of the existing historic 2-story Fire Station 8. The building is a brick multi-white masonry load-bearing structure that's approximately 3,400 square feet. And the scope of work includes renovation and structural upgrades in order to accommodate flood and seismic performance. The massing of the building remains largely unchanged with some minor modifications to the site doors and windows and roof as indicated in the summary. If you'd like to skip ahead to slide 5, the existing exterior photos here, you can see some interior photos, exterior photos. On the rear, you see that it's kind of cluttered with exposed condensate lines, conduit, ductwork, and we're going to clean all of that up as part of the scope of this project. We're also going to reestablish that infill of the arch and infill with storefront to bring in nice northern light to the interior of the space. Site survey. On this slide, you'll see the demolition scope, some limited sidewalk and concrete removal in order to accommodate the foundation and stormwater scope. and really just generally cleaning things up. We're removing that gas tank on the northern corner of the building, and the concrete on the back rear site wall, the north site wall. On the next, if you want to skip ahead to the next slide, this shows the proposed site plan. The main materials are permeable pavers and sod and new plantings. Again, trying to clean up the site plan with designated parking spaces, a nice courtyard on the north side of the site to expand the living space out of the day room. And on the north side of the site, you'll also see the generator and cistern. So the generator, as you saw this morning, is currently under construction as a separate project, but the cistern is part of this project and is required to handle 100% of the roof drainage in order to meet the storm water regulations. Most of these are just site context if you want to skip ahead to the demolition of the first floor. The layout is staying pretty similar with the apparatus bay on the front along Hugie Street, with the day room and the kitchen in the rear. Just kind of reorganizing and cleaning things up on the interior. And then on the next slide, you'll see the new structure that's going behind the brick exterior wall, which is a mixture of concrete and steel that we'll look at in a minute. But again, the apparatus bay in the front, the day room in the kitchen in the rear, opening up that rear arch to establish storefront and bring light into the building. And then the middle midpoint shear wall will also match that same arch, so there'll be clear views through the station or to the new fire truck. Yes, right there. The second floor demolition plan. On the next slide, you'll see most of the programmatic functions are staying the same on this level, with the exercise room in the front along Hugie Street and the bunk rooms, and also some supportive programmatic elements like laundry, restroom, study, janitor's closet. The rear third of the gable roof will be removed, and a new low slope membrane roof will be installed to house the new mechanical unit, so they'll be out of public way and out of the flood zone. While the current roof form is original, it's barely visible and not a character defining element. The existing asphalt roof will be removed and replaced with new standing seam metal roof system. And we also will provide an access door for maintenance. Yep. Some typical exterior photos to show the condition of the building. And here we wanted to clarify that the existing top 5 windows are 1/1, and those will remain 1/1. So please ignore the mid vertical. Yes. Yep. And the last slide, we'll also wanted to point out that we'll be removing that overhead coiling door and installing a new bifold system.
Did you want to mention the laminated glass?
Yes, so we're working with the city to determine the best path forward for this. We're still investigating options, and our next step is going to be to do a window by window analysis. But we're looking at potentially keeping the existing glazing and using a 3M product that's clear, that would be installed on the interior side, that would provide some security, and we'll also still have the jam mounted fabric panels, much like they had at Station 6. I think that really concludes all that I wanted to comment on. So happy to open it up for questions.
You, Alyssa. Any board questions right now?
This is Bill Huey. Can you go back to the first floor plan? Yes, that one. Thank you. In noticing the new door for the actual fire vehicle, it is now inset behind the sort of thickened seismic area. how are you proposing to address that extended jam depth?
Well, the 1 foot wide concrete wall is required for flood proofing and for structural reasons. So that will be kind of the, I guess, increased depth that you're referring to. But we're still figuring out exactly how those any flood panels would be integrated. But that is an in-swinging bifold doors, which is why we have the bollards.
I think he's talking about
the
exposed concrete there.
So we're still working through that detail.
Can you go to one of those front photos? I just wanted to see because it looked like there's a fairly deep return of. There, yeah, there's a fairly deep return of what appears to be a sort of a trim material. We're going to see another foot deep of that.
So we on site this morning, we investigated this, and it appears that the arched part of this opening is original wood, and the jambs have been replaced. And the profiles of those do not match the historic profiles of other openings on the project, on the building. So the jambs will likely be replaced to match other profiles on the building.
One thing I would recommend is take a look at the fire station. I forget which number it is that Evans and Schmidt did.
Cannon.
I'm sorry?
On Cannon, sorry.
Is it on Cannon? Yeah. Because they dealt with this very same issue. You might want to look at that. We worked with them a lot to figure that detail out.
Absolutely.
I had one quick question. Is there any chance that you could do a radial top at that folding door, like your basis of design, or is that just not feasible for some reason?
So that's actually, it will appear this way in elevation because it's set inside the opening, but the actual door will be rectangle, and our next step is to work with the company to see if we can add some sort of arched mullion like you're indicating to match.
Oh, style.
Yes. Yeah.
A style, yeah.
Any other questions?
I had one. How tall is the mechanical equipment that's going to be on the roof?
There are 3 small size units, although they have not been, the exact dimensions have not been sized, and we know that that will be a next step of studying that elevation, determine if screening is required.
How tall is the parapet?
About 3 feet.
Okay.
So we're hopeful that we might not have to. The parapet might provide that screening.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Alex, is there any public comment on this one?
We have one speaker. Let me confirm. Yes, we have Anna Catherine Carroll speaking.
Anna Catherine Carroll with the Preservation Society of Charleston. We appreciate the applicant reaching out to us on this request and applaud the proposed sensitive repairs that will facilitate the continuation of this building's historic use. In light of potential window modifications, we encourage the applicant to work closely with staff to ensure any repairs are executed to maintain accurate and authentic profiles and details in the future. Thank you.
And they're putting us to work.
Alex, any other public comment?
That is the extent of public comments.
Okay. So staff recommendation and comment.
Okay, so generally it's a well-conceived renovation to bring this Category 1 fire station into compliance with contemporary requirements of a 21st century fire station, while also maintaining its historic character. The hip roof is minimally visible from the public right away and not an important element of the mass of the building. Modifications to the roof structure at the rear to accommodate mechanical equipment is a benefit and acceptable. We do want to see, study of the height of that equipment. Staff does not recommend laminated glazing in the existing window sashes, as it will affect details of the windows and will not provide additional protective benefit being putty glazed. Retain existing windows and repair. Selective repair and replacement of windows if necessary in the field with BAR staff. And I think the idea of an interior film is maybe a better solution there. Submit separate application for review of the new cistern with additional details, including the size, color, and finish, etc. Basically separating that from this application because we don't really have any information unless you bring more information the next time you could include it. Replacement of the existing asphalt shingle roof with a new standing seam metal roof is positive. Submit details of the type of the metal to staff, and then submit details of jam mounted storm panels at the next review. Submit product information on bifolding metal doors at the next review, and test the existing motor and submit specs for replacement motor. With that, we're recommending conceptual approval with staff conditions noted. And I didn't mean to say final review by staff. I don't think we're there yet.
Okay, thank you. I was going to ask. Okay, so thank you, Dennis. Alyssa, did y'all want to react to public comment and or staff comment?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay.
I was furiously taking notes of all the comments.
Sorry, I'll give you a moment to catch up there. It's kind of tough. Normally, what do we do, Alex? Hand them out and hand them a copy? And that's a little difficult these days, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go to board discussion.
This is Bill Huey. I would say that I do agree with staff's comments and recommendation, and especially the comment about the laminated glass set in putty glaze. It's going to be fairly useless in a negative pressure situation. Also, one thing I forgot to ask about earlier was just making sure I would assume that repairs to the perimeter wall are involved in this scope of work.
Very limited.
I noticed that tree in the back corner near the shed that we looked at this morning. The root system evidently has damaged part of that wall. I was hoping the affected repairs would be involved in this this project, seeing that new landscape plan. So it'd be in the upper left-hand corner near that tree, the perimeter wall has some damage. Mainly because the wall appears to be a vintage with the building, and it's a pretty finely detailed wall. So I'm hoping the affected repairs will be involved there. But I do agree with staff's comments and recommendations. Look forward to seeing it next time.
I do as well. This is Julia. I think staff made some perfectly valid, good comments. And I just want to say that for me, this is a very thoughtful and thorough conceptual proposal to sensitively restore and protect this significant building. The floodproofing techniques at the interior are especially interesting and well considered, as is the accommodation of mechanical components at the rear of the roof.
Any other? Okay, I don't see any more comments.
I'll just, I can go ahead and make a motion for conceptual approval with staff conditions noted.
Okay, Julie's made a motion. Is there a second?
Wilson here, second.
Fillmore seconded it. All right, I'll put it up for a vote. Julia?
Aye in favor.
Fillmore?
Aye in favor.
Glenn?
Aye in favor.
Bill?
Aye in favor.
Chair votes aye in favor. Motion carries unanimously. All right, so then the next agenda item is 6 Percy Street.
Okay, this is a request for conceptual approval for repairs for fire damage to include modifications to fenestration, extension of a rear deck, and new fence. This is a Category 4 building in Cannon-Borough, Elliottboro, circa 1895 to 1902 in the old city district. Again, apologize for the quality of these slides, but here we are on Percy, just near Spring, between Spring and Bogard. This is a view directly from Percy, looking at the front of the house. Pre-fire there, south on Percy. And then looking north on Percy. The north side view here, and south side view here. And you can see the building's really leaning. No, okay. Let's see, the survey card here gives us some detailed information. And then I will turn it over to the applicant for their presentation. Alex, if you could allow them to speak.
The applicant has called in, so he won't be a panelist, but I will allow him to speak now.
Okay, all right.
Hello, this is Jeff Bolin, the owner. You can hear me?
Yes, we can, Jeff.
I apologize, I don't have a visual connection here. Can I ask you to go to certain slides and just try and lead you briefly through a little presentation?
Sure.
Okay, page 4 on the submittal is my pre-fire photo. It'd be interesting to know what actually you had for that. And before I go further, I know I'm not paying you for any sort of historical review, but I am interested in knowing why there is a historical 1/1 in some location and 6/6 in other locations, if you happen to know that. Also curious to me is on the front facade, you can see there between the two upper story windows, there's a cutout where there used to be a door or a window, which is also present in the sister house next to it. And you can see that on page 7. So I'm curious about those two things. But I love the architectural interest of the house. That's why I bought it, and for that in the courtyard. So the goal is to bring it back to its pre-fire condition. You can see from page 5 the extent of the exterior damage there from the fire, and it carried in mostly with heat and smoke into the interior of the second floor, and then there was extensive water damage and smoke damage in the first floor as well. Right now it's demolished back to the studs on both floors, and all the clapboards are remaining as you see it there. So the goal is to keep as much as possible and replace in kind everything that is missing basically at the piazza area. When you look at the front gable, page 6, there is some damage there. It's the hope that I can keep the front gable and the back gable while demolishing the rest of the roof. My structural engineer has indicated that none of the roof rafters, collar ties, roof ceiling joists can be salvaged. It has to be taken down basically to the top plate. We might jump now through the existing, you might pause on page 11. That's the back courtyard, which is a great courtyard. That's kind of why I'm wanting to open up the back of the house with a lot more glazing, just to be able to experience that courtyard. We can come back to windows. It seems like that's an issue of main concern this evening. Page 10 has one of the windows on the north side that I'd be interested in talking to you about, but let's come back to that. We could scroll through to page 20, getting through all the existing plans. And so these are the new plans. You'll see on this site plan, I'm not going to address any of the interior issues unless you want to bring that up later. I'm indicating 3 options. So it's my idea to pretty much replace everything in kind. My 3 options would be 1, adding a fence for security reasons. We've had a lot of security issues. So I'm showing on page 20 a fence added 50 feet back from the street. This would enclose the trash bins, the mechanical space, and then give me some security in the backyard. The second option would be extending the deck at the back of the house. None of that would be visible from the front or the street behind us. And thirdly, I had indicated an option of replacing a single window at the kitchen with one of the double windows, existing windows at the living room, but I've since decided not to pursue that. So, and from the discussions this evening, it sounds like that wouldn't be entertained anyway. Slide 21 shows the back of the house again, where I'm wanting to put in a lot of glazing and a double sliding door panels. The proposed second floor is basically the same major change, adding a 3-panel door up in the master bedroom. Page 23 is showing the entire roof being replaced, chimneys, of course, staying, and we'll try and keep as much of the gable as possible. 24 is the west elevation. See from page 25 that the yellow indicating the severe damage, basically all of the piazza frontage has to be replaced in kind. And it shows option 1 showing the fence. It shows the location of where that enclosure would be. I don't think that's going to be taking away from any sort of visibility from the street for any architectural details. All the windows are in front of that towards the street, so that back 20 feet of the house for both the first floor and the second floor is pretty much bare. So I thought, if anything, that the added fence would add a little more interest to that facade. Again, on sheet 25, you'll see the extension of the deck in the back. Sheet 26, the north elevation. Again, the roof coming off, but that side of the house is pretty much left as is. They're now jumping over to the window discussion. When I had 2 contractors in who are familiar with remodeling and work in this area, in the historical area, they were both of the opinion that all of the windows upstairs would have to be replaced because of the damage. You can't really tell that on the exterior, so I'm not sure how to proceed with that, but they thought the interior damage to all those windows and the smoke damage would, and from the heat, would be too much to repair. Also on this, so now talking about the lower level windows, you'll see option 3 here as replacing that. I want to keep that window as it is right now. So those 3 windows in the bottom, first floor of the north elevation, it sounds like I should have somebody from staff come out and discuss whether it's appropriate to replace the sashes or if they are reparable. Sheet 27 shows new glazing in the back of the house, and I'm proposing those to be insulated doors and sliders. Again, the fence. I think that covers it.
Thank you. Does any board member, or Dennis, does anybody have any comments or, excuse me, questions right now?
This is Bill Huey. I was just going to try to help answer the applicant's question. If you go to that survey picture, that explains the door because there was a balustrade above the bay. You can see it on that, the old.
Oh, okay. I can't
picture.
see that photo. I can't see that photo, so I'll have to find that out. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, Alex, is there any public comment?
We have 1 member of the public who's going to speak on this item, and I will allow Anna Catherine Carroll to speak.
Anna Catherine Carroll with the Preservation Society of Charleston. We would just like to applaud this applicant for their diligent and sensitive rehabilitation of this building following the unfortunate fire earlier this year. We would ask that all windows be replaced in kind along with other historic material, but are otherwise fully supportive of this request.
Thank you.
Right. Alex, I think that's it for public comment, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Staff recommendations.
Okay, well, I'm not sure I'd call them options as much as components of the application because they're not optional approaches, they're just different components. But option 1 is acceptable with the following revisions. I wonder can I ask the applicant a question? I meant to ask this and forgot, but you're showing the screening of the mechanical at 7 feet high. Is that necessary for to hide the equipment that high?
No, I envision the equipment to be lower than that. I haven't really spent much time on the design of what that is. I kind of thought of it as a walk through doing some sort of arch or something, maybe a little bit more architectural than what you see on those drawings. But I think for that reason, I was kind of wanting to pass through a door and into the courtyard, as opposed to a small fence.
Okay, thank you.
For security, security reasons as well.
Well, you know, our comments include reducing the fencing to the minimum height to conceal the equipment, and the new wood screen and fence to be urban style design with vertically oriented fence boards rather than horizontal. And staff can provide a typical detail of that if necessary. Align the gate and the fence at the driveway. Let me go back to the plan, show you what we're talking about here. We'd like to see the fence, you know, that defines the mechanical area here, continue right across here and across here, and then rotate the trash enclosure 90 degrees so it basically faces the mechanical and have the doors open this way. So when you look down the driveway, you just see a nice clean plane here, and you don't have the doors for the trash enclosure opening to view. Let me get back to my comments here. Relocate the tankless water heater to the rear or locate at a height where it will be completely screened by the fence. Option 2 is acceptable as the deck will not be visible from the public right away and therefore is not under BAR purview. Furthermore, adding sliding doors at the rear is also not visible from the public right away and out of BAR purview. Option 3, adding a gang window to the first floor of the north elevation is inappropriate, changes the historic fenestration pattern, but he said he's not going to do that anyway. Maintain and retain a planting bed on the south side of the driveway. And then prior to any removal of any fire damaged exterior material, schedule a site visit with preservation staff to determine full extent of replacement necessary. We're recommending conceptual approval with staff conditions noted, not recommending final review by staff because we'd like to see more detailed information about the scope of replacement in kind work to repair the fire damage.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. You're welcome to respond to public and/or staff comment.
Again, I apologize. I only have the audio. I couldn't see the description of the. I'm not sure what the description of the enclosure at the trash collection was. So maybe there's a.
You can't see the screen.
No,
okay. Yeah, we can explain that to you. I can do a little sketch and send it to you when we send you the staff comments.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, that all sounds fine to me. I do have a question about the windows. Do I need to go through with the staff on each individual window before I can proceed
Yes,
with the word?
that's what we're recommending.
That's what staff's recommending, and we'll take that up, Jeff. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so let's go to board discussion then.
This is Julia Martin. I'm glad to see that this property is getting the attention it needs, and I appreciate the applicant's thorough assessment and sense of urgency and has expressed willingness to work with us. Also, I agree with staff on almost every point with one minor departure regarding that trash enclosure. And here's my logic, that if we assume that the occupants are civilized, they're going to want to keep those doors closed. But if they're not civilized and we make it hard to access the trash cans, I bet they'll just leave them in front of the fence. Just saying.
Good point.
He sounds civilized to me.
I think so.
Well, I hate to say it, but I have to rent this house another 5 years before I can move into it. So I'm not sure what civilized
But you
kids
might
I'll
want
have
to
in
just
there.
hold your comment.
All right. Any further board discussion?
I can make a motion if you want for conceptual approval with staff conditions noted. If you'll just strike the last half of 1C after enclosure and final review by staff.
Just a quick question of staff. Did you make a comment a while ago that was final review by staff warranted, or were you talking about
No.
further information?
More
I think you
information.
pulled it, Bill. So Julia, if I'm looking at 1C, it's after HVAC enclosure.
Correct.
Okay. Just the rotation piece. I got it. You all follow that? Julia's made a motion for conceptual approval with staff conditions noted, provided we modify staff condition 1C to delete and rotate trash enclosure 90 degrees.
Second the motion.
Okay, so Julie's made a motion. Glenn has seconded it. I'll put it up for a vote. Julia,
I in favor.
Glenn,
I in favor.
Fillmore,
I in favor.
Bill.
Very quickly, Mr. Chairman, just point of order. Was that final review by staff or not?
No.
I think I did say final review by staff. Did it get?
Well, no, so, well, to be clear, staff's not recommending final review by staff.
No.
They're not anymore?
The motion was final. The motion had stated final review by staff. That's why I'm asking.
That's the staff recommendation I had, and maybe you updated it. And
No,
missed it.
I said that I was not recommending that.
Oh, my bad. Okay, then yes. Strike it. Strike that
Right,
one
so-
thing. I'm sorry.
Here, let me clarify. So Julia's motion is conceptual approval with staff conditions noted, period. And then the board condition to modify staff condition to delete and rotate to modify staff condition 1C to delete and rotate trash enclosure 90 degrees. And so Glenn seconded that. Okay, so then we started voting and Julia voted in favor. Glenn voted in favor. Fillmore voted in favor. So then Bill.
I
Wait a minute. Julia made a motion and you took a vote on it that included final review by staff. So she would have to restate her motion, have to be re-seconded, and then you have to re-vote.
Okay. Okay, I will do that. I'm making a motion for conceptual approval with staff conditions noted, but amending condition 1C to strike everything after the word enclosure. Full stop.
Okay.
I second that motion again.
Glenn has seconded it. All right, so now put it back to a vote. Julia,
I in favor.
Glenn,
In favor?
Bill Moore,
I in favor.
Bill.
I in favor.
All right, chair votes aye in favor. Sorry if I screwed that up for everybody. The motion passes unanimously.
Excuse me?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me where that landed regarding the trash enclosure?
That is not part of our motion. So we've approved the site plan showing it as is.
Okay.
With the
Not
exception of moving the gate forward.
Well, without it rotating. I'll let you all elaborate, but
Yeah, I'll send you a sketch so that it's clear what the
Okay.
board voted on.
Okay.
I think that's the best way to make it clear.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Okay, next up is 469 King Street, requesting preliminary approval for replacement of the storefront door and replacement of a portion of the storefront window with a new aluminum panel for accessible entry to the ATM. It's a Category 4 building, Radcliffe Borough, circa 1852 to 1872, in the old and historic district. And the storefront portion of this is 1950s to 1960s. Apologize again for the quality of this, but this is the storefront on King Street, and now we see a view of it looking from King. This configuration is original. Looking south on King, north on King, it's now on your left. Survey card here that gives us information about dating and some of the conditions of the storefront at the time that the survey was undertaken in the 80s. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant if Alex could allow them to speak.
I'm promoting Mr. Mendenhall and let's see, Mr. Presti. And you should be able to unmute yourselves and turn on your camera if you have it.
Hello.
They might have, it looks like they have multiple accounts. Let me try their other ones that are here. Okay.